Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. I hope everyone in good condition. So this is videos of subtopic 12.1 types and factors of variation from chapter 12 variation. Okay, what is variation? What is the definition of variation? So variation refer to the differences in characteristics found within the same population of species. No two organisms are the same although they are from the same species, including in identical twins. There will always be differences between them. Normally, variation refer to physical characteristics observed in phenotypic differences caused by changes in structure, physiology, and biochemistry. Variation enables us to identify individuals within a population. Okay, let's discuss about the necessity of variation for the survival of species. Variation plays an important role in evolution and form the basis of natural selection. Natural selection is an evolutionary force that select beneficial genes and remove the non-beneficial ones from the natural environment. Through natural selection, species that possess phenotypes which enable them to adapt to their surroundings will continue to live and breed for the survival of the species. So let's discuss more about the example of variation for survival of the species. Okay, this is the fact about the before the Industrial Revolution. Okay, there is a moth called Biston betullaria. So the Biston betullaria have the grey color variant and black color variant. So this is the condition before the Industrial Revolution. After the Industrial Revolution, okay, the Industrial Revolution in United Kingdom caused the environmental pollution. So Biston betullaria, which is darker in color, survives better compared to the one in bright color because it is not easily seen by birds of prey. So this is called camouflage. It's a protective mechanism by which an animal matches its color or shape to its surrounding, thereby making it difficult for predator or prey to see it. Okay, ini contoh yang berlaku. Okay, survival of the species, okay, ataupun kemandirian spesies bergantung kepada persekitaran. Okay, jadi sebelum Industry Revolution, color grey kelabu, varian kelabu Biston betullaria akan menyamar lebih baik berbanding yang dark melanic. Okay, apabila Industry Revolution berlaku, pokok yang ada di kawasan itu telah menjadi lebih gelap. Jadi dark melanic variant Biston betullaria ni lebih menyamar dengan lebih baik. Jadi tidak kelihatan oleh pemangsa. Okay, the necessity of variation enable natural environment to continue selecting beneficial characteristics and remove the non-suitable one. Ensure survival of the species when the environment changes. Allows crossbreeding among species to form new species. So this is the necessity of variation. Okay, now let's discuss about the type of variation. There are two types of variation, which are continuous variation and discontinuous variation. So now what is the continuous variation? Okay, continuous variation is the differences in the characteristic is not distinct. So individuals show the gradual differences in characteristic from one extreme to the other extreme. A spectrum of phenotype is observed. So when we plot the graph, continuous variation we show the bell shape, the normal distribution or a bell shaped curve will be obtained. Most members in the population have intermediate phenotype, which are characteristics found in between the two extremes, okay, such as the data of height. They are quantitative, can be measured and graded from one extreme to other extreme. And the characteristics are influenced by environmental factors. So now what is the discontinuous variation? Discontinuous variation show distinct differences in characteristic, perbezaan yang ketara. So when we plot a graph, a discrete distribution or a bar chart with separate bar obtained. There are no intermediate characteristic. Tiada ciri perantara antara ciri-ciri yang diplotkan dalam graf ni. Contohnya kumpulan darah. The characteristic is qualitative. It cannot be measured or graded because the characteristic can only be determined by genetic factor. The characteristic is not influenced by environmental factors. So occurrence of discontinuous variation is due to genetic factor. Therefore, it can be inherited. So a characteristic is determined by a single gene with 2 or 3 alleles. Therefore, the characteristic is easily seen. Example is ability to roll tongue, eye color, and fingerprint pattern. Okay, now let's discuss about the comparison between the type of variation. Okay, the similarities is show differences. Both variations show differences in characteristic among individuals of same species. Okay, in terms of characteristic, no obvious differences in characteristic in continuous variation. Why? Obvious and distinct differences in characteristics in discontinuous variation. In continuous variation, presence of intermediate characteristic, while no intermediate characteristic in discontinuous variation. When we plot a graph, okay, the continuous variation will show normal distribution, while the discontinuous variation will show the discrete bar or bar chart. Continuous variation, the characteristic is controlled by many genes, while the discontinuous variation, the characteristic is controlled by one single gene. Okay, factor. Okay, continuous variation influenced by environmental factor, while discontinuous variation not influenced by environmental factor. Discontinuous variation is controlled by genetic factor. In terms of measurement, continuous variation can be measured, is quantitative, but the discontinuous variation is qualitative, cannot be measured. Okay, now let's discuss about the causes of variation. So, organisms of the same species differ in terms of morphology, physiology, and genetic. So what are the causes of variation among these organisms? So for continuous variation, okay, is caused by environmental factor like temperature, light, pH. For discontinuous variation is caused by genetic factor. Okay, so the crossing over, independent assortment of chromosome, random fertilization, and mutation are the genetic factor that can cause discontinuous variation. Now we discuss more about the genetic factor. Okay, crossing over. So look at to the picture. So crossing over is occur. Okay, crossing over occur between non-sister chromatid of homologous chromosome during prophase 1 of meiosis. So you have learned about the prophase 1 during chapter cell division. So what happened in crossing over? Recombination produce new combination of genes. So sister chromatid that separate during anaphase 2 of meiosis from gamete are different genetic material at the end of meiosis. So after a crossing over, there are new combination of genes between the maternal set and paternal set chromosome. So this is the second genetic factor, independent assortment of chromosome. Okay, during metaphase 1 of meiosis, a homologous chromosome pair, one maternal chromosome and one paternal chromosome is arranged randomly on the equatorial plane of a cell. Okay, look at the arrangement. So this is the arrangement number 1. Okay, and then this arrangement of number 2. So this arrangement will produce two probability of the arrangement. Okay, so this probability will cause the variation. At the end of the meiosis, different gamete will be produced with different combination of the paternal and maternal chromosome, which result in the genetic content of each gamete to be different from the others. So look at to the picture. So the gamete we have the let's say the green one is paternal, so the purple one is maternal. So have the different set of the gamete. Next, genetic factor is random fertilization. So a genetic recombination which occur during crossing over and random arrangement of the homologous chromosome in meiosis produce gametes with different genetic content from their parents. So we have learned previously, a previous slide. Okay, crossing over and independent assortment is the process occur for gamete formation. So the gamete have different genetic content. So after that, the gamete will fertilize. So fertilization between sperm and secondary oocyte is randomly. So therefore a diploid zygote which is produced after fertilization will have a new genetic combination. Next, the last one, the genetic factor is mutation. So mutation is a permanent change which occurs spontaneously on genes and chromosome. Okay, so later we will discuss about the mutation in 12.3 in this chapter. So mutation create new genotypes. If mutation occur in a gamete, okay, mutation of the germ cell, the characteristic determined by mutated genetic material can be inherited. Okay, jika mutasi itu berlaku pada gamete, dia akan diwarisi. If the mutation of the somatic cell can cause variation, but the characteristic cannot be inherited by the next generation. Jika mutasi itu berlaku pada sel soma, so variasi itu tidak akan diperturunkan. Okay, let's discuss about the environmental factor. So variation caused by environmental factor is known as environmental variation. Environmental factor that cause variation include abiosis factor such as temperature, light and pH. The effect of environment on variation is small since it only involves phenotypic differences and not genotypic differences. So environment can change allele frequency and genotype frequency in a population but cannot change the genotype. And the environmental variation cannot be inherited from one generation to the next generation. So this is the the picture of the Hydrangea species. Okay, which environmental factor cause Hydrangea species to produce different color flower? So the pH of the soil determine the bloom color. Okay, look at to the picture. There are variation of color of the hydrangea species plant. So in acidic soil which a pH lower than seeds yield blue or lavender blue hydrangea blooms. In alkaline soil which a pH above 7 promotes pink and reds, and pH between 6 and 7 the blooms turns purple or bluish pink. So this is another example environmental factor. Okay, before this we have discussed about the pH of soil. So now is temperature. Look at to the color of Siamese cat. Okay, so Siamese cat inherited the gene that which produce dark pigment enzyme for fall color. This enzyme only function at temperature less than the body temperature. So the parts of the body which lower temperature are the ears, face, tail and paw. Okay, look at to the picture of the Siamese cat. Okay, the different color of the fur. Okay, therefore the body parts is dark in color. Okay, the color of the eye, the color of the ear, the color of the face and the tail are dark in color. So Siamese cat living in warmer climates will often have lighter color coats and point then those is the counter location. Okay, next the environmental factor light. Okay, sunlight can alter skin color. People who are under the sun for a long period of time will have thin skin, such as construction worker. Ultraviolet ray in sunlight can destroy melanin pigment of the exposed skin. So therefore, the more melanin pigment will be produced, which cause the skin to be darker. So this is the interaction between genetic and environmental factor. Okay, environmental factor can interact with genetic factor to cause variation, in which the environmental factor determine the phenotypes. Characteristic inherited from parents such as height, intelligence and skin color are greatly influenced by environmental factor. An example which support the effect of the environmental factor of the genetic factor can be observed in identical twin. Okay, jadi genetik dengan persekitaran, okay, faktor persekitaran dengan genetik akan mempengaruhi fenotip. Okay, jadi kita boleh tengok contoh macam mana interaksi antara genetik dan persekitaran yang akan mengubah penampilan ataupun fenotip. So, example, A and B are identical twin. Both have similar genotype for obesity since they originated from the same embryo. A and B was separated since childhood. Okay, kembar ni kembar seiras tetapi kembar ini telah terpisah. Okay, after 18 years, so look at to the picture. A is more thinner. B is experience obesity. Okay, because A like low fat diet and enjoy physical activity, whereas B like high fat diet does not like physical activity. So B is obese, whereas A has a ideal body weight. So this is the example of how the interaction between the environmental factor and genetic factor, and we cause the differences in phenotype. So the conclusion, differences in eating habit and environmental while growing up produce different phenotypes. Okay, ini kisah kembar yang terpisah pada selepas 18 tahun didapati mereka berbeza dari segi penampilan kerana tabiat pemakanan dan persekitaran dan aktiviti fizikal yang mereka jalankan akan menjadikan mereka berbeza dari segi fenotip. Okay, that's all. Thank you.